Let's talk about something you do every single day, probably without even thinking about it. We're talking about that invisible line you draw between what is food and what is life. We all have our own set of rules, right? So let's take a look at a few you've probably heard before. Okay, first up, this one. And you get it, right? A lot of people feel this way. There's this emotional connection, this idea of the cow as a gentle, peaceful animal. And on the surface, that feels like a really clear, simple moral line to draw. Then you have this statement, which tries to be a little more consistent. Instead of just picking one animal, it throws a bigger blanket of compassion over all of them. The logic seems pretty solid. All animal life is precious, so we just shouldn't eat any of it. Simple. And finally, you have the most absolute stance of all. This isn't just about what's on your plate. It's a bold declaration that every single animal has a fundamental right to live, period. All three of these sound so kind, so moral, so consistent, don't they? Well, this is where we need to hit the brakes for a second. Are these positions really as rock solid and consistent as they sound? Or are we, maybe even with the best intentions, just picking and choosing which life we decide to value and which life we decide to ignore? So let's dive into that idea. Let's talk about our selective compassion. Why is it that we guard some animals so fiercely but completely overlook others? Okay, let's circle back to the person who won't eat beef. The cow might be seen as a gentle friend, something worthy of protection. But does that same feeling, that same pity, extend to, I don't know, a chicken? For a lot of people, the answer is just no. So what's going on there? This really breaks it down, doesn't it? I mean, if the whole point is to prevent suffering, let's just look at the facts. Is a cow alive? Yep. A chicken? You bet. Do they both feel pain? Absolutely. Do they both try to survive? Of course. Logically, they're on the exact same page. The only difference is that last row, our choice. One gets protected, the other gets ignored. Why? Well, it's because we build these invisible categories in our heads. In one little box, we put our pets, our companions. In another, we've got the animals labeled food. Then there's the stuff that's just ignored, like insects. This has nothing to do with biology. It's a mental filing system we built out of our emotions, our culture, and frankly, just plain old habit. So it forces you to ask a really tough question. Is that feeling of pity we have for some animals actually based on logic? Or is it really just based on what's familiar to us? All right, so to try and fix that inconsistency, a lot of people just draw a bigger, bolder line. And that brings us to the vegetarian perspective, which really tries to create one simple, all-encompassing rule. The core idea here is powerful in its simplicity. Treat all animal life as equally valuable. The difference between a cow, a chicken, a pig, a fish, it's irrelevant. If it's an animal, it gets to live. And that sounds like it totally solves the problem, right? No more picking and choosing. Just one clear rule: don't eat animals. It feels consistent, it feels clean. But this is where the rabbit hole gets so much deeper. Because now we have to ask a question that's maybe even more uncomfortable. If our core value is protecting life itself, have we actually included everything? Or is there a massive category of life that we've conveniently forgotten all about? Yeah, what about plants? Because if your ethical foundation is do not take a life, then we have to face the scientific fact that every single piece of fruit, every vegetable, every grain of rice we eat was a living thing. And listen, this isn't some philosophical word game, it's just basic biology. Plants grow, they respond to threats in their environment, they reproduce, they fight like hell to survive. They are incredibly complex living organisms, not just things. And that leads to this really jarring question. Is our moral line really drawn around the concept of life? Or is it just drawn around whether or not we can hear the scream? At this point, you realize the debate isn't really about which diet is right anymore. It's about a fundamental conflict that every single one of us lives with. The unavoidable clash between our moral ideas and the basic biological need to survive. I mean, this slide just lays it out perfectly. You have these two systems at war inside us. On one side, our moral system says, protect life, all life is precious. But on the other side, our survival system says you have to consume life to continue your own. We are literally caught in the crossfire of this contradiction. So how do we deal with this? We create an unspoken hierarchy. It's something we all do.
At the very top, we have protected life, our pets, the gentle animals. In the middle, we have consumable life. That's the animals and plants we've decided are okay to eat. And way down at the bottom is invisible life, the insects, the bacteria, the life we don't even register.
And here is the most important part of all. This hierarchy is not some universal objective truth. It is completely subjective. It changes from culture to culture and even from person to person. What is a beloved companion in one part of the world is dinner in another. That's why this debate is so personal and honestly so endless.
Which brings us right back to where we started, but now we're looking at it through a completely new lens. When we draw these moral lines about what we eat, are we really protecting life in some objective sense? Or are we just protecting the life that feels important to us?
And that, ultimately, is the question that everyone has to answer for themselves. Where do you, personally, draw that line between life, survival, and your own sense of morality? There really are no easy answers here.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? Maybe the goal isn't to find the one perfect, morally flawless diet, because it's possible one doesn't even exist. Maybe the most ethical thing we can do is just be brutally honest with ourselves about the complexity of every single choice we make.